Okay, I suggest to start. Welcome everyone to the fifth community call dedicated to the Keeper pool. I see familiar names that are participating in our calls, few calls in a row, which is cool. Thank you guys that you're contributing to our project. We highly appreciate your feedback and your assistance. I see that today we have more smaller, cozy community, which is also cool. We can make some kind of a brainstorm of our open questions and to provide an opportunity for everyone to provide their own ideas and thoughts. So we can start directly with agenda. I mean, who are today during the call pretty familiar with the product, so I will not elaborating describing this, but if you're watching this video in a record and you're not familiar with the product, you can study the details using the links in the description of the video. So let's move forward through the agenda, and the agenda for today is our team. We will provide the updates since the last call about our progress. After that, we would like to cover some open questions our team has. And after that, we will tell you about our next steps. And a little spoiler, we are trying and we have a ambitious goal to show you first end-to-end demo in testnet during the next call. So yeah, that's our goal for this week. So let me make a quick overview about our progress since this week. So yeah, we are keep moving to release in a testnet. And what we have as for today, as for a liquidity pool, we deployed the basic functionality of the pool. Basically, it's possible to join, exit to the pool. Also, we are deployed Keeper bot smart contract, which can take assets from the pool and participate in a MakerDAO collateral auctions. Also, we deployed Risk Oracle, which monitors the DAI auctions and tracks the gas prices and its state. Also, during this week, we finalized our initial bidding strategy, and also we have a few open questions we'd like to cover during this call. And we were working a lot of user interface, which we are waiting to show you during the next call. And as for smart contracts progress, our engineer Kostya will provide some updates about it more in details. Kostya, would you like to update us?
Sure. Hello, everybody. So I will share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. Yeah, so I'll start from a quick overview of smart contract architecture. So what we have and what have changed. So for everything starts from the factory. We have factory contract, which create pools. So we can create different pools, for example, different pools with different strategies, with different keeper adapters, which implement different strategies. Also, these pools can be in different currencies. So the only limitation, we have this salt. This is a hash which determines smart contract address. So, for example, we can have A pool in DAI, B pool in DAI, but we are not allowed to have two A pools in DAI. So factory creates pools. This contract where users joins this pool, provide their capital, and they can exit this pool. Also, we have concept of adapters. Each adapter has opportunity to allocate and pay back, allocate some money from the pool and pay back if and send back some amount after the usage. So we have each pool, each adapter connects to the pool with certain amount of allowance of the capital to use. So here is MakerDAO keeper adapter. So this adapter has uses a separate contract, which is strategy contract. So on the last community call, John showed us the formulas, how to calculate tenths and dense amounts of DAI and amount of lot for tenth and denth phase. So this strategy connected to keeper adapter, and keeper adapter uses it to do some actions. And what exactly actions? So the first action is kick. So we can, it's handy function to kick some CDP. So we can kick CDPs which has liquidation status. So we can check liquidation status, and if we can kick some portion of the CDP, we can use kick function. Next, there is a function bet. This function determines in which phase this auction. So if you are in a 10th phase, we calculate next step according to our strategy. If we are in a dent phase, we calculate next step according to our strategy. So once we calculate what amount of DAI we need, we request it from the pool and participate in the auction. Yes, and when we win the auction, we can make a deal with maker and get our collateral. So here are some scripts to do certain use cases. As I showed on the last community call, we deploy our version of MakerDAO in order to modify it a little bit. So for example, so we have config for Kovan. We have currently I use this dev config, and I can set some values. For example, we are the most interesting are these ones. So we can set back, which is a step to increase bid amount, and these two values. This is bid duration, and TTL, this is auction duration. So currently I set it to 3 minutes just to quickly check different use cases. Okay, so I've deployed all the system, and I can use it. So let's see how it works. I will deploy our pools. Okay, so after deployment, we have this configuration file where we have all the contracts from Maker. And here's the list of our contracts. So we have pool, we have pool token, we have keeper adapter, we have exchange and strategy. So keeper adapter works with strategy, and keeper adapter binded to the pool. And pool has pool token, and participants join the pool buying pool tokens. So they when they join the pool, they get pool token. When they exit the pool, we burn pool token and pay back DAI. Okay, so in order to get some DAI, we need to open CDP. There is the only one way how DAI is generated. So okay, so in this, I can set prices. So I will set 100 DAI per ETH. So yeah, so the old price I was playing with was 40 DAI. Now we have 100 DAI per ETH. And now in OpenCDP, currently I have these hard-coded values. I will wrap it in CLI tool with parameters. So now it's not necessary. So okay, OpenCDP. Yeah, so I have new CDP with 2 ETH in collateral, and I generated 130 DAI. And now I can join the pool. With my DAI. Yeah, and now my DAI is in the pool. At the first step, its conversion rate is 1-to-1 until we have some money from the keeper. Okay, and let's say we have a massive dump. So now the price is 40 DAI per ETH. Yeah, and now my CDP becomes unstable, not safe. So this is CDP number, and I can kick it. Yeah. Yeah, and now we have auction number 10. So it started with 0 at the first bid. So we have 1.5 ETH in this auction. So Guy, this is my this is our keeper. This is me. that kicks this auction, and this is amount of debt, and this is the end of the auction. Okay, now I can bid. So bid, this transaction is for our bot. So contract will calculate the amount of bid according to this strategy. But yeah, so our strategy calculated the estimate 10 18 die. So we put this this bid, and now here is the auction status. We have one bid, the first bid with 18 die, and yeah, current winner is our keeper adapter. So here is another auction status, and one thing, we are not able to bid twice. So if I want to outbid my own bid, I will have I'll get an error. Yeah, self outbid. So I've noticed that there were quite a lot of auctions with self outbids. I don't know why, but obviously we don't want to outbid our own bids. And auction status. It will take 3 minutes. Each auction, as I mentioned earlier, duration is 3 minutes. So now during this time, everybody can bid intent and then face. So now it's ended. So we are the winner. So we can take this auction. So I set 10. Yeah, so now our keeper has the collateral on its balance. So here is it. Now I'm working on integration with exchange to sell this collateral and to pay back it to the pool. Currently, I'm doing it with Uniswap. So Uniswap has second version, so we can use it as a price oracle and also to swap different tokens. So here is it, what I wanted to show today.
Cool, thank you, Kostya. And not moving far away from the thesis you mentioned that we are going to sell the collateral initially using Uniswap. But I have a question for everyone. There are some potential risks that may occur. They are pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a potential lack of liquidity, not very convenient price, etc. So I wonder whether anyone has some experience in different DEXs or even DEX arbitrage. What can be, is it a big problem, or what can be the solutions? I mean, it could be using DEX aggregators like 1inch, Total, DEXAG, or whatever, or it is like selling collateral with some small parts to avoid slippage and price dumps, and or yeah, does this problem really matter, or this slippage is not very high and it's not worth to worry about it? Does anyone have any opinion about it? Okay, I guess so. We will study this question, continue study this question internally. If you have maybe other thoughts, you can provide them later. Okay, thank you, Kostya. Are there any questions to Kostya and to the implementations that Kostya showed to us?
Yeah, I have a question. When approximately will majority of contracts be stable from a perspective of getting them in front of potential audits partners or the peer reviewers, so that they could do one or both of the following actions? Number one is review, provide feedback, and hint on what may be the angles for future research for de-risking, mitigation, maybe introduction of new circuit breakers, basically peer review, right, from security perspective in mind. And the second, it might be that we may ask a couple of organizations to give us an estimate of effort to make a thorough audit under contract, where the amount they give us will be the input into the proposal for request for application for grant proposal, so that organizations that care or would like to support it could see what they're funding, right, and where amounts will not be based on our rough estimate or idea, but they will come from those who will do the work. So the question is, when approximately are we ready now? Are we at this stage yet, or we're not? If not, then when approximately it will be a good time to give them first access to take a look for peer review or for estimate of efforts to perform a full audit?
Okay. So currently we have a few use cases in the backlog. So the most important one is selling ETH through some exchange. So this is the main challenge. So I think next week we will solve all the main issues we have. So starting from the next week.
Okay, so basically next week is the time when stability will be more, but there will not be big changes in the contracts, right?
Yeah, because main functionality is working. So we need to finish opened issues, opened use cases. So we're going according to the plan.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. And this last question around smart contracts, Konstantin, could you show existing parameters that need to be either defined or setting to be determined, basically what is missing from your perspective, or the checklist? What are the things that we need to do on the parameter setting, or on the providing some research about, let's say, about this liquidation, right? Maybe we need to have more than one venue, maybe two venues for liquidating acquired ETH, right? What are the things that you think we need to work on so that we don't start working on it and get a delay, but maybe we can do it now?
Okay, so we have some parameters in smart contracts, and most of them are related to the strategy of keeper. So such values like target return, maximum discount, these values are part of the formula to calculate bid and lot, intent, and then phase. So they are described in the document for this formula. So these are parameters. So we need to define these values because, and also we can use different strategies. So we can define different strategies. Some of them could be even proprietary. So what I mean, we can we can deploy strategy contract and not publish the code for this contract, for example. So nobody will know these parameters. This is the first option. I don't like this actually because obviously this is public and open pool, so this is not a good idea, but it's possible. So
okay, and multiple strategies. Are you do you see that multiple strategies will be deployed within a single pool? Just a different strategy will take a different percentage of war time allocation. Let's say if the pool allocates 50% to liquidations, at this, let's say at any moment of time, and let's say we have three strategies, this 50% will be split in some proportion, or are you referring to deployment of a separate pool with a separate strategy?
We can go both options. So I can say that these both options are implemented. So we can have two separate pools with separate keepers with their own strategies. This is the first option. And we can have one pool with a few adapters, with a few keeper adapters with different strategies, and they will have different allowances. This is also possible. So
okay, understood.
It's feasible, and currently no problem to do this.
Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you. So the takeaways are the target return and okay, how many strategies, one or two or whatever, right? And basically preparing these parameters in a way that they could be deployed for the first pool, right?
Yes, and also current version of TENT and DENT formulas, it's it's quite simple. So we calculate next step as current bid plus 3%, but not more than our expected return. So maybe we can adjust this formula to be more competitive. I know that there are different risky strategies. So for example, we can set the first bid as 98% from the current price. So the next step will be more than 100%. So this also strategy.
Okay.
So strategy definition is the most is one of the most important issues, and next step is how to sell the auction, because maybe it would be better to wait for a better price, or maybe it would be better to sell this collateral by small parts. So what the strategy, how we sell this collateral? Because if we have big collateral, it's totally possible that there is no liquidity on the exchange, and we will take this slippage amount. So this could be a problem. So
okay, got it. So maybe so that's one of the risks, is that the venues that are used for liquidation of the acquired collateral don't have enough liquidity, or the slippage is so big that it does not make sense to even to make a bid right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that I could add it into the risk, or maybe if you have access to the risk framework, right?
Yeah.
So if you open that document and add a line or contribute to the existing, that would be great, because that is the document. I think there is a line in there where which says that let's say collateral is acquired, and then due to the very fast price action, it cannot be turned back into dive before the whole cycle becomes unprofitable, right? But this one is a little bit a variation of it, where we can basically put a mitigation strategy, kind of a circuit breaker, which will put a stop on the bid, right? In case this liquidation is highly probable to not be turned around, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, both parts of this question, the strategy and selling collateral, is really interesting. We can spend more time to discuss it. I have few inputs as well. That strategy that Kostya you mentioned really makes sense right now, having 2% of discount. If we neglect the potential slippage, just this 2%, because if we look at recent stats of liquidations, the average discount is not really high. So this strategy right now really makes sense. So we really should consider different target returns and how we will set them, adjust them. And right now, even considering the APR for lending assets to compound, it's maybe a good deal. Yeah, but here is the question about selling the collateral. Right now, we are not consider this process in our formula, but this is a really important part. So how to solve this? And sure, it's not very representative, but I check in Uniswap every day on this potential slippage, even selling 500 of ETH, it's only 2.5% slippage, which maybe not a big deal, but also it depends on market conditions. But if we check 1 inch or total, they do not have this high slippage. So yeah, we should study this question more precisely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, from my side, I could give an update on the risk framework and the proposals for grants. On the risk framework, there have not been much progress done in the past week, since majority of the items that relate to risk mitigation will have to be performed before more sophisticated items could be implemented. Like, for example, implementing certain circuit breakers should be discussed when there are core smart contracts in place, right? It does not make sense to implement them before the main capabilities, functionality is written. So that makes the existing, this current sprint a bottleneck. Once we go and release a more or less stable version, then we will add the items such as circuit breakers into the backlog. The same thing is about the grant proposals. I would like to see next you guys hear me?
Yeah, but there was some connection issue.
Yeah, it was incoming call that broke in. So on the grant proposals, as soon as we have the end-to-end demo of the user interface and smart contracts working together, so that a reviewer, let's say receiver of grant proposal, could really understand and see the product and try it out, right? At that moment is the moment where we can actually be capable of putting together a grant proposal that would make sense and would not rely too much on things that will be built later on and so on. So if we are asking for a grant to help us fund security audits, right, we need to have more or less stable contracts that we are asking to fund the audit of, right? If we're asking to support the project with some other on some other area, right, we need to have the UI even more so than if we're just asking to audit the contracts. But even if we're asking for grant to fund the audit, right, the question will be, okay, well, let's say we fund this audit expense. Who will use it and how, right? Will it get any adoption? Will the work result in any benefit when it comes to the outcomes that they're seeking? Let's say if Maker Foundation is seeking the benefit of getting more mature keepers market and reduce the risk of loss to maker holders and reduce the risk of loss to vault holders who may be the maker holders have a risk of being diluted, and the vault holders have a risk of losing a portion of their assets due to liquidation at below market value. And those risks will only be mitigated if we can show that the mechanism that we have built is actually usable and easy enough for the consumers for the liquidity providers to come in, right? And it's kind of all right, it's only missing an audit, right? That now it's a different story versus we're asking, okay, we need to get this grant, but we're not there yet, and well, come back when you have something to audit, right? So that's kind of the state of dependencies that we have for both implementation of risk mitigation strategies and implementation of submission of the grant proposals. They all depend on having an end-to-end working good enough or somehow fully functioning system, right? With, of course, limitations, that's fine. And the second, more or less stable set of smart contracts that will not be undergoing like daily significant changes, right? So that's an update from my side.
Cool. Maybe there are any questions or suggestion regarding the grant submission? Maybe someone from a community has a relevant expertise in this area. If no, I'd like to cover one more question during the agenda. For the last few days, I spent some time doing keeper market research and got some interesting insights from Dragonfly Capital Research and Dune Analytics. There are some interesting charts and information about keepers' profits, and which was interesting that DYDX has really high profits because I guess liquidators, they can earn in both market movements, because if you're open short position and market goes up, you can liquidate as well. So and they have also fixed 5% incentive, the same as compound, and which is more stable, but it's more competitive. Also, there is interesting chart that shows how many transaction fails due to gas wars. So I have a questions to the community. Does anyone have relevant experience with other type of liquidations from compound, DYDX, DDEX, and other DeFi protocols that have collateralization logic? And it would be great to hear feedback in terms of what features and protocols should we add in the future. And it would be really great to hear some insights if you have. Maybe someone seen any interesting information about it. Andrew, you told that you are communicating with some keepers of Maker. Maybe you have some insights to share.
Sorry, not for now.
Okay.
Not in this case. I have some suggestion about liquidation, about selling ETH, Ether on the exchange. You can make contracts, you can make an agreement with people willing to buy Ether at a discount. And you can make it way before the liquidation starts. For example, set up a smart contract where people put their DAI and a certain amount of discount. Like you said, 2% discount would be competitive in any case. And if there are people who would like to buy Ether with a discount, because there is a market here, OTC market, peer-to-peer market where people pay up to 3 or 5% at the market price, I think there would be quite a lot of people who would like to buy Ether with a discount. And you will solve the problem with slippage.
Yes, some kind of OTC makes sense. Maybe do you know any projects or frameworks that's easily to use potentially?
You know, when you were talking about the slippage, when Konstantin was talking about the slippage problem, that idea just popped up to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't dig into it much, just an idea, because I was dealing with people who tried to buy Ether on peer-to-peer market, and I know there's such a problem, which I just told you about. And you can, I don't think it would be a big problem to entice those people to your project. And well, I forgot what I was thinking about. There was some, okay, if I remember, I'll talk about it later, but not about the issue with compound, dydx, and etc.
Okay, got it. As an idea, that makes sense. But yeah, it will depend on a collateral amount, because right now 2% looks like maybe high discount, but we should check the numbers and then see what will be our appropriate number. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the community? Renat, maybe do you have some questions to ask?
My question is on the from our roadmap perspective, right? The first version to be released will be quite simple. It will not have, for example, mempool monitoring or some significant sophisticated gas price and so on, volatility. Well, I'm sorry, slippage monitoring and things, right? I would like to see an opinion on what may be the highest priority item out of those that are currently pushed in the subsequent releases, right? Which of these could be the reason? I mean, if we were to pick one of these elements, right, which could contribute the most to either good performance in the moderate type of environments, right? Like not like extreme black swan events with like 50% drops within 1 hour, right? But within more typical periods of downtrend price action, similar to the ones that we've seen over the past, let's say, 12 months, right? Where collateral actions in Maker were during the wartime, right? What would be the single most important thing that we could add and prioritize higher and develop it faster that could mean the difference between good performance, successful liquidations, profitable operations, right, and not? Or the same thing for on the risk management side, something that could significantly de-risk and reduce these very not extreme, very low probability risks, but those that are more likely to occur within an average period of volatility. Would it be a mempool, a gas oracles, or I don't know, diversification of where we can sell the collateral, this volatility, this slippage issue, right? What could bring the most impact onto the historical performance of the keeper pool during the periods of volatility, assuming the competitiveness of this market at this time, that what we know?
I can start from my standpoint. It should be risk oracle both for mempool monitoring and gas prices, because this front running and for example DEX arbitrage in the market is have a lot of experts, and I guess it will define our competitive advantage, because it's not really understandable field with this gas wars and how to work efficiently, and especially when we will extend our features to other DeFi protocols. It will be not possible to participate in DYDX and compound auctions without good mempool monitoring. It just will not be possible. So I think this should be one of the high priorities, but that's my opinion. Maybe someone can provide other thoughts.
Okay, any other opinions?
Okay, from my perspective, gas price calculation could be the first priority. Yeah, so I'm for gas price calculation because it's very important to be the first who bid, and or to be the last who bid in this auction.
Yeah, I agree here as well, because this keeper market becomes more and more competitive, especially after events on 12th March. Because even before this, there was a relatively high interest in this market because it was pretty close, not really known, and attractive with profits. But now it's more and more competitive, and yeah, this gas price calculation, I foresee this as one of important parts, along with mempool.
Okay.
Are there any other opinions about crucial parts to be a successful keeper? Okay, if there are no other suggestions, I guess I can make a few overview about our next steps for this week, and then we can wrap up like 1 hour call for our agenda. So yeah, as I provided a spoiler in the beginning, we are have an ambitious goal to show your end-to-end demo right in 1 week. So we are put our all efforts to finish this smart contracts parts and user interface and show you the end-to-end demo. That's our main goal for this week. Yep, and that's pretty it. If maybe there are some last questions or comments.
I remembered what I wanted to ask the community.
Yep.
Konstantin told about the issue, a probable issue, when there's a slippage on the DEX, when you try to sell the WTH and you can't sell it. He proposed to hold it. I know from my experience that tomorrow may be much worse than today, and the day after tomorrow much worse than tomorrow. Taking this into account, I wouldn't suggest to hold any Ether. If your base currency is DAI or whatever back to USD, you can't count on this strategy. It would be a bad mistake.
Yeah, it's a kind of separate field of expertise, because it's basically a trading activity, and it requires experience and expertise to know when you should hold or when you should sell. It's basically the main questions for traders, and yeah, that makes sense. But maybe in the future, having more sophisticated strategy, it will have more sense. But right now, I agree that it's more risky, and it just waiting for some lucky point. But I agree with you here, Andrew.
Okay, great, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Vadim.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the next call showing our